Boys and girls, your attention, please.
Hello and welcome back inside the Park for May for podcast number 960. This is Todd.
No, Todd, not now.
AKA Negative Camber. You know why I asked you here, right?
You must convince the villagers that I'm harmless.
That's exactly what I need you to do. Tonight, for your kind consideration, well, we're going to cover the news in the past week. That's what we do on non-race weekends. For doing that, though, of course, I've got to go all the way to the right coast of our nation, nestled near our nation's capital. You know her, you love her, the lovely, the redoubtable Grace, how you doing?
Doing pretty good, Todd. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking, Grace.
Well, you know, it's how we are. I saw that your team won last night, so I'm sure you're doing much better.
Yeah, my team did beat the Lions last night. Yeah,
they sure did. So,
and for the millionth time, I was born and raised Kansas City, lifelong Chiefs fan, suffered for decades. So I'm not a bandwagon Chiefs fan. All right, just throwing that out there. I sat through Steve DeBerg. You didn't.
That's right. No, yeah. So the part of the game I watched was good, but then I, went
sure, because your Steelers won. You were done for the day.
That's right. Well, they were playing the Browns. They better have won. Like, come on.
Right. Yeah. Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
Oh, boy, well, there's some news this week, Grace, in the Formula One paddock as we head into the U.S. Grand Prix in Austin at the circuit.
That's right.
The circuit of the Americas.
That's right.
At COTA. And
it sounds fancier when you say it that
Circuit.
way. Circuit du America.
Yeah.
That's right.
I like it. I think...
like we're in Spain.
It is.
Nice.
It's nice. That'd make Carlos happy, right?
That's right.
So as we head into the weekend, what are we going to talk about in this podcast? Well, we're going to talk about things like this. If you're Andrea Stella, what explicit rule would you state for COTA? No swaps, first stint priority, or free fight after turn one? What's the least bad policy? That's one thing we're going to be talking about. Another thing that we're going to be talking about, does an unopposed presidency help or hurt the 2026 implementation of the new regulations and futures, right? We're going to be
an unopened presidency was
that
funnier,
is funny,
yes.
Especially who we're dealing with. And then, other things we're going to be talking. If Apple ends up winning the F1 contractor broadcast, who handles the casual fan onboarding that ESPN did so well, right? So we're going to be talking about that, these things,
Craig,
and even more.
Craig and Tim, that's who's
Craig and
handling it.
Tim, a guy named Tim at Apple.
Yeah, that guy.
Just a guy.
Craig and Tim, they got it. They got it covered.
He's doing Apple things. So, we're going to talk about those things and more. Let's start really at the sharp end because all of you want to know what Grace's thoughts on the McLaren situation. Look, McLaren clinched the Constructors title. We know that. Now we have Piastri v. Norris. Is this a straight fight? So McLaren sealed the 2025 Constructors Championship in Singapore. Russell won the race. Piastri and Norris gap is 22 points with 6 Grand Prix, 3 sprints left. Whew. It's getting tight. With the title wrapped, the Constructors is done, right? Now the driver fight is still alive, and the internal politics are louder than ever now that the team first objectives have been met, right? And post-Singapore, certainly online and social media, lots of debate about the Papaya rules and perceived favoritism for one driver over the other after lap one. That was a lot of the discussion, analysis pieces and done, and lots of words written about the situation, massive social media post threads, keep everything simmering all week that we...
of course, man. You know, we had a week. We have a
right.
week off.
And we even had external voices like Gunther Steiner, the Steiner weighing in, urging McLaren to back the points leader, right? So
Wait, he's now an external voice? I don't know that he quite counts as an external voice.
Maybe. Well, he jumped ship to MotoGP.
Yeah, give it a year and they'll all be the same voice. It'll be fine.
Right. So why does it all matter? Well, with the constructors' pressure gone, any team orders, I think the prevailing notion is constructors' championship's gone, Grace. any
Right.
team orders will either look political or be construed as favoritism, and the sporting and brand cost of picking a 1A is kind of higher now, in that sense. And so, as I was thinking of, go ahead, you want to weigh in on that?
No, I was just thinking. I mean, of course it is, and right?
Yeah.
That's part of the also the gamesmanship of radio communications that we all get to listen to,
Yeah.
right? So
Right.
you always want to work it in your favor, right? It's just like anytime there's a foul, you always point to the other team, right? Like
Right.
it can't possibly be your team's fault, right? You have to it's those guys, even if it was clearly your fault. We all know it was your fault, right? You always have to look like, I don't know, he just ran into my fist. I don't know what happened, right? Like I don't know how we got here, right? So
Right.
never your fault.
I was thinking, Grace, is just the pushback and pitfalls of this whole situation is really, the assumption one might make is, just let them race. And while that sounds great, it probably would be great until it costs you a driver's title via the two, Oscar and Lando crashing into each other, allowing Max to slip through, or maybe they have some strategy implosions, they've done in the past. So, and then Max slips through and takes the driver's title. So that whole let them race thing sounds great on the surface, right? And then maybe a counterpoint to that is really, if parity truly exists, then intervening less, it may increase the total points for the lead driver by reducing some of the friction between them. But losing a driver title might be seen as true parity in that sense. If you were just to let them race, and if they crash, they crash. And, if Max happens to slip through in the last 6 races or whatever, it's what it is. But Papaya rules, and it's parity, and we said let them race, right? Nobody in McLaren's leadership would be okay with that, I would imagine. Don't you think?
Nor their sponsors,
Right.
nor the Emiratis that own the team.
Right.
So
Right.
that's correct.
Yeah. So I can't think that they would think that was great.
No.
And then I was thinking, Grace, maybe are we overweighting maybe a couple messy weekends for McLaren, and maybe underweighting an entire season of data that's showing, Lando and Oscar, both sides have benefited, and it kind of is what it is. And maybe still managing some Papaya rules as it goes out makes sense. Maybe they just had a couple messy weekends, and it's drawn them closer. But the reality is, they need to manage it all the way to the end. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, of course you have to manage it all the way to the end. So, so there's sort of the two perspectives, right? So Formula One is a team sport. So the sport always kind of is weighed in the favor of the team, even when the Constructors' Championship has already been locked up, right? However, as fans, we put weight on the drivers, right? And of course the drivers put weight on themselves,
Yep.
right? Because you always have to manage your narrative, right? And so Oscar, of course, is going to be like, oh, I see how it is. Nobody values me. He has to say that. He may believe that in his heart of hearts, but he also has to say that out loud on the radio so we all hear it, because he has to promote himself, because he's only as good to this team or any other team as his last win, right? How you perform in your last race, that's what everybody remembers. So why are we talking about this? Because Oscar said out loud, what? That's not fair. And so now we're talking about it, right? He has to say that, right? Because he has to manage his own narrative as well as the team. But what they favor is always from a team's perspective. So you can, but the team isn't going to say, oh, at race 12, we let Lando around. So now here at race 16, we're going to let Oscar around. No, it's always from their perspective. And that changes with every race. Does that make sense? Like it is what benefits. I mean, you think of it like if you have multiple children, it's what benefits the family. The kids may be like, this is unfair. And you're like, too bad. I've got to drive 7 kids to 6 different soccer games. The youngest one gets the shaft, right? Like you can't think about it from that individual driver perspective. It is always from the team perspective. And that changes constantly. It's not a like tick mark tally. Like we gave it to Oscar, now we give it to Lando. We gave it to Lando, now we give it to Oscar. That's not how that kind of fairness is going to work in this sport. But of course, we as fans really want the drivers, right? And that's really what people pay attention to. And I still find that when I talk to people about Formula One, they're like, what's this business with the Constructors Championship? What's that all about, right? Because in other sports, you don't have this sense of like, in basketball, there isn't a team. I mean, there's an MVP, but that's not the same as like a Constructors Championship and a Drivers Championship. And that's before we even have to talk about the difference between a manufacturer and a constructor, which is also a very weird concept to people. So, but I think that people are sort of like, why do I care about this? But it's where the money comes from, the Constructors Championship. So that's what's most important to the team. And however, there's so much clout that comes from winning the Drivers Championship because that's what people remember, right? And that's what the sponsors really want to tout. The sponsors don't want to be like, I'm Ollie Otts and I support McLaren who won the Constructors Championship this year. No, they want to be like, oh, Oscar, I supported Oscar, right? Like that's the better narrative. So those two things are a rub. But in Formula One, the teams have to be concerned with the Constructors Championship. But that doesn't mean that now we just say, well, we won that. We'll be back.
Right.
We'll see you next year in, Australia. It's not Australia. I'm sure it's, I don't know where we're not. I want to be back in Australia. So I'm just going to say in 2026, we'll see y'all back in Australia for race one. And we're just not going to pay attention to these last 6 races and these last 3 sprints. That's not the case. They still need one of their drivers to win, and they will have decided that. I just think that you have to manage it better. I mean, it is McLaren. I mean, if anybody's going to shoot themselves in their own foot, it is McLaren. I mean, right? Much like your earlier statement about Kansas City.
Yep.
I've been a fan of this team for some time. If somebody's going to screw them over, it is going to be themselves.
Yeah, right.
So, and that seems to have persisted from Ron Dennis into Zach Brown. I don't know why that
lingers.
is. It's like Ferrari, right? It's their ethos. I don't know.
Right.
But I mean, I think that my advice would be look to Mercedes with Nico and Lewis, right? You really have to think about how you're going to manage these 2 drivers now, what your strategies are going to be, what that's going to look like to other people, and what the drivers are going to say out loud, because they are going to manage their narrative. And if Oscar feels like he's being slighted, or if Lando feels like he's being slighted, they're going to tell us, because the last thing they want is their next contract to be affected because, oh, you're soft.
Yeah.
You just let your teammate past you, or you don't have the dog in you, or whatever other phrases people come up with, to manage that narrative on behalf of the driver. So it's not. Maybe McLaren need to do a better job of communicating it to their drivers and to the public, but they have.
I felt like certainly the whole Papaya rules thing was really, from a team perspective or a company perspective, you're mitigating risk, right? So your rule sets are set out to achieve really what you're trying to do. The short term is the Constructors Championship. That's what they're going for from race 1. And then you shift that to a driver title fight, which is arguably appropriate now.
Right.
But how you do that is a very delicate situation. And Paul and I talked about it in one of the race reviews many races ago, like even before summer break, I think. And, I said, this is either going to be a genius effort by McLaren to manage the quote Papaya rules effectively, or it's yet another fanciful attempt like Toto tried with Nico and Lewis, and Ferrari tried, and McLaren tried with Senna and Prost, and it's been done for decades, and you can't manage it. Eventually somebody's elbows gets out and someone gets the bit between their teeth and goes for the championship. So it will be interesting. I kind of think Coda will be interesting, in the Sprint and Grand Prix, if there's any explicit radio statements like, no switching places, or no, hold position, or, those kind of radio messages will be very intriguing to see how people react to those. If they say, well, whoever's leading on merit gets first bit, and, those kind of things. So I don't know how like I said, it either end up at the end of the year laughable. It was a fanciful attempt at trying to manage it.
Yeah. And McLaren can't be worried about that. You have to run the race that's in front of you, and not worry about that chatter. Because 5 years from now, in Australia next year, nobody's going to remember that. You know what I mean? Yeah, the anoraks, us nerds, will remember that. But I think that you have to win it, and then all people are going to remember is that Lando or Oscar won it. They're not going to remember the oh, the fans were grumbling about this thing. That will fade. That World Drivers' Championship will not fade, and you need that, and you need both, and you haven't had them.
Well, to your point, Grace,
20 years.
Everybody grumbled about Multi-21, but it didn't change the results. Sebastian Vettel's a world champ.
That's right. That's right. And it's just anorak meme worthy, but and I think the worst part is they should have never called it Papaya rules out loud.
I know.
Like, that is really what made it stick. Like, if it was just team orders, we'd all be like, Formula One, team orders.
Yeah.
Right.
They branded it.
It would have been like the Weber Vettel video, picture of I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess we're friends now, right? That would have been it.
Yeah.
But because it's called Papaya rules, which you did, you named it that.
You branded it. Yeah.
And now it's going to stick. So you have nobody to blame for but yourself, McLaren. And had they not done that, maybe it wouldn't be such a thing. But this is just sort of how it rolls, people. And I think that it's been so long, especially because the last time you really had a championship like this that kind of went down to the wire was before Drive to Survive, right? So I think that if you are new to the sport, this is how it goes. And the worst thing that can happen for McLaren is that they muck it up and Max Verstappen somehow wins it because they have some tracks Red Bulls are going to be strong at. Mercedes is going to win in Vegas, right? So it's not like they're just going to win these last 6 races. There's some tracks on here that I would be a little nervous about if I was McLaren.
Especially if they've stopped development, Grace. Yeah.
Yeah. Get it together. And it's rule number 1. That's the only rule that really matters here. Don't take out your teammate.
Yeah.
Like, every time I just hear Steve Match in my head. Don't take out your teammate. Don't take out your teammate. So that is Papaya rule number 1, because that's every team's rule number 1. Never. This isn't Force India. Don't take out your teammate.
Yeah. I think, to that point, I think that's where my hunch is they'll end up saying, look, gloves off, but don't take out your teammate. That's just a big no-no. I don't see how they get to the end of this season without one of the drivers being pissed off. I mean, it's inevitable.
Somebody's not going to win
It's inevitable. Somebody's going to be upset, one of them. And you say, well, we have 2 number 1 drivers. We really want to chain the drivers. We have the best driver line up the grid. And so we want to do it in a way that both of them at the end of the season can feel confident that we didn't prioritize one or the other, that they both had an equal shot and blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter, because there's been enough stuff that happened this year that one of them, whoever doesn't win, is going to feel like they were put upon. And I don't see any way coming out of that. And it could cost you one of them, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's always the case. And so that's why you want to manage it early, manage it often. But, there is some benefit to that, like Michael Schumacher, Rubens Barrichello setup, right? Like Max Verstappen and whoever's in the second car, right? There's something to that, because we don't have to have this discussion at Red Bull, right? That we know who's in charge here, and we know we're all just feeding that machine. And so,
and Ferrari took a hell of a lot of incoming over that about Schumacher and Barrichello.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. People hate
They hated it.
They hate team orders.
And this is terrible. And then it was banned, and then it was unbanned, and all that stuff back in Ferrari. And my point then is okay, well, Rubens is awesome, but he's not Schumacher. And clearly Schumacher's the priority. He's one of, if not the GOATs. And so from that perspective, Ferrari said, we're just not going to have a bunch of muckety-muck about it. It is what it is. Michael's number 1, period.
Yeah.
And they just eliminated all the kerfuffle.
And I think that's the thing that Rubens only knows in his heart of hearts, right? Is it better to be Rubens Barrichello at Ferrari or Rubens Barrichello at Honda? I don't, you know what I mean? Right. You have to where you want a guaranteed always number 2, or boy, this could go really wrong.
Right. And Rubens won races at Ferrari, won several races, and, did really well at Ferrari as a number 2 versus being at a smaller team where he didn't win anything. But he was a number 1. But is being number 1 in a 10th place car better than being a number 2 in a 2nd place car? Yeah.
And there's more to it. I mean, I think that, people winning races in Formula One is a real rare thing, unless you're in that dominant car. There are, it's always surprising to me, how long they have to go before they've won a race, and that people, that Alonso's talking about, like, I'm just here to support this team and I want this team to be successful. Yeah, he may never get another world championship.
Right.
Should he have? Yes. But boy, those cards really just didn't fall in his favor. I don't think that's a phrase, but it just didn't pan out for him after he left Renault.
No,
he
it's
just
true.
Really got the short end of a lot of teams.
He did. And you take a guy like Nico Hulkenberg's, his entire F1 career never won a race, and he only just made it to the podium recently.
Yeah. So I think that you have to be. It's true in all sports that you have to look more than just wins and losses, but to really understand the sport and really understand what's going on. But I know people get mad at coaches when the team wins, but it's only because they played poorly, but the other team played more poorly.
I feel like that's what the Chiefs had done with all their wins this year.
Well, so you know what I mean? So the coach is going to be like, no, I'm mad. My team didn't play well. And then the fans are like, but we won. Yeah. Right. And so that you're going to get some of that too, that there are people that just want that kind of parity, but you're never going to get that in racing. There's way too much involved. Sponsors are watching, and McLaren has to have decided if it's going to be Lando and Oscar, and they've had to have set that rule a long time ago, how it's going to be. But don't take out your teammate.
That's it.
Rule number
one. Maybe the only rule is we had in the last few races, but that's it.
And that's fine, but, don't take your teammate out.
This news caught me off guard. You guys remember I interviewed a potential candidate for FIA presidency, and for Tim is up for he's running against MBS for the presidency, and so a couple other people throwing their hat in the ring. But we found out this week that Reuters was reporting this. And other places, obviously, F1 news outlets were too, that the election rules and candidate list dynamics may leave Mohammed bin Sulayem without a viable challenger for the December 12th vote this year.
Good job.
Wow. Well, see, here's the thing. The regional VP slot for a candidate's staff, they have to submit their application. They have to submit who would be serving on their staff. And so they have to have people that they've selected from the various FIA regions around the world. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm here in the Midwest, and I was running for president. And so for sector East Coast, I'm going to pick Grace as the vice president, right? Okay, so... But the problem is that there's a list of people from each region that qualify to be cabinet members for these candidates. As it turns out, South America's single eligible name is a bit of a bottleneck here because it's Bernie Ecclestone's wife. And she's the only viable, acceptable candidate. And you think, well, okay, but and get this, she's already on MBS's cabinet. So the other candidates can't select anyone from South America, and therefore you don't have a full cabinet and you can't run. And the deadline for this full slate is October 25th, and a lot of the would-be candidates haven't named their teams yet because they can't pick anyone from South America. There's only one person that's eligible for selection, and she's already on MBS's cabinet. It's astounding.
How did this even happen?
Talk about this this is just, I can't even put into words how ridiculous this whole thing and how it's all manipulated to insulate and consolidate power.
And what does the cabinet do exactly?
I don't know. It's kind of like forming a government.
They aren't running the single seater. Yes, but we know what they're supposed to be doing. Whether or not they do it, that's a different thing. But we do know what they're supposed to be doing. I just don't know what the cabinet. I never realized that really the president had a cabinet. I don't know what they do, but there we go. We all learned something. Unless you are all really into how the FIA presidency works. What an interesting Bernie Ecclestone. What an interesting, that man, I swear.
Yeah, it's his wife. And MBS clearly consolidating his control over the election procedure to eliminate any real election this year, per the FIA regulations that he himself had a hand in setting forth. He's not going to win on merit, but through regulatory fiat, basically, is if this is allowed to proceed this way, where they have to bow out because they can't select Bernie's wife because she's already in MBS's cabinet. So.
Right.
I don't know. So I thought, all right, let's look at both sides of this. Let's look at pro and con. And I was thinking, okay, so the assumption is that unopposed, does unopposed really equal unpopular in this case? It can also simply mean that the structural barriers that each candidate was aware of before throwing their hat in the ring, right? So if you knew that was the case and you threw your hat in the ring and you're running, maybe the task is to really challenging, and I'm not saying it won't be challenged. It wouldn't surprise me if one of the candidates, tried to take this to court over, basically setting the regulations where nobody can run. I mean, if they only keep one person in South America and it's Bernie's wife and she's offered a perpetual job on MBS's cabinet, there'll never be a normal election because that's the only person to be selected. So clearly they need more people in South America that are eligible to serve on the staff that candidates can pick, right?
I don't even understand how that happened.
Well, I know how it happened.
I don't. Well, I know it was by design, but I'm just saying, this seems like first of all, you always have to worry about these things because eventually it won't be you.
I know.
Who is the president, right? So what happens when it's somebody else? And now they're playing this game, right? That's always the nuclear option is that hey, maybe when it's not your person, now you don't like that this is the case.
Yeah.
Second of all, why? I don't understand how this isn't challenged because this is ludicrous. It's not all of South America. There's no other person.
I know. Get Rubens Barrichello.
Really? Yeah, there's this country, Brazil. It's pretty big. There's a lot of people who are really into racing there.
Yeah, apparently. So, yeah, they have apparently a history in racing down there.
Right. That's what I'm told, right?
Yeah. A lot of great motorsports.
I'm sure if you just walked around Interlagos in a month, you could find some people that would be willing to do this.
Felipe Massa.
What's Bruno Senna doing?
What is Bruno Senna doing? Tony Kanaan.
Oh,
TK.
I love TK.
Too.
Don't
TK is
do.
awesome.
I feel like don't
do that to him.
Though,
yeah,
right?
TK doesn't deserve that. But
no, right?
But when you look at it, and I was thinking, okay, so what's the counterpoint to this? Well, okay, is continuity a bad thing? You're going through 2026 rollout of the new regulations. You got cost cap adjustments coming and enforcement. Talk of a 2030 engine change to a different formula, possibly V8. Is it bad? You have that continuity with MBS in there for a second term, and is that all bad, right?
But your continuity shouldn't only come from your president.
It's because you should win on merit. Yes, I agree.
Right, and that if you have, that's how our government is supposed to work, right? If you have, something important healthcare, it should be consistent regardless of who's in power. Right. Yes, that means you tweak it and you make changes, but every 4 to 8 years, you can't completely reinvent healthcare.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't. You would never be able to have healthcare, right? Or any other program, right? So you have to have continuity. Can't just be based on the administration because you can't run anything that way. So this isn't any different. Continuity isn't the reason you keep a president.
Right.
Of anything.
Right. It might be the reason you keep a driver in a team.
Yes. Because you need that data to be,
but not an FIA
right?
president. I don't think so.
No, because other people should be supporting you. I don't know, maybe that's what your cabinet does, right? They keep these programs running. They keep this idea afloat when some new president comes in.
Right.
Because yes, you're going to tweak that, but the core of whatever that is should stay the same, right? Formula One can't just, guess what? We have a new president now, and we're going to do it totally different.
Yeah.
That's not how Formula One can work, right?
Right. And I got to thinking, okay, so am I being too hard on poor old MBS, put upon MBS, or
You and Lewis, who refuses to be anywhere near him and shake his hands, and could it be any more awkward?
I don't blame Lewis. Am I being too harsh in attributing sporting controversies to the governance of the sport when, let's be honest, some of the issues are clearly F1 shooting its own foot or commercial choices or even broadcaster choices? Some of these are self-inflicted wounds that don't have a lot to do with the regulatory body. So am I really attributing all of F1's woes to MBS when a lot of it is self-inflicted wounds by, like I said, commercial or broadcast or F1 itself? I don't know. I don't think so. I feel like I've been relatively fair, and I've said all along that I'm assuming he's a delightful guy, but the reality of it is I think he's miscast for the play. I don't ever think he was enough of a statesman to really, manage that. And a couple of years ago, getting drunk at the prize-giving gala and getting in a war of words with Christian Horner was a very poor look on the FIA, or at least, I read he was drunk, but he seemed like he was. But, it's just it's just bad.
Or he wasn't, and that was the cover.
Yeah, right. Who knows?
But you're right. I think the thing is that if you have to declare you're the boss, you're not the boss.
Yes. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And so you could say, oh, well, Max Mosley was, the FIA president for a long time. Right. But I never got the sense that it was this kind of shenanigans to keep him in his presidency.
And Max was he's a lawyer. He's an attorney or a barrister, you'd call it in the UK. But he was, when it came to law talk and stuff, he was super smart about it and could have easily navigated something like this and did not, And even when they had the whole sex scandal thing, he could have manipulated some of the regulations, or he could have done things to retain that position. But in the end, he didn't. I mean, he held out, but eventually, left. But you have MBS here who, by all measures, everything I've read, I don't think he's that loved in the paddock. It's clear with the drivers who don't want to interact with him.
Yeah.
It's clear with the team bosses that they're not that, he's a evil they got to deal with. And I just don't think fans are to pardon the pun, but not big fans of him. Right. So I just feel like manipulating or putting your thumb on the scale of this election so no one can oppose you, it's just a really horrible look for the FIA. It may be great for MBS, but it looks like hammered dog poo from a brand perspective, the FIA. I'm sorry.
But plus, what is their work life going to be like? Like, you still have to do something. What is that going to look like for the some amount of time? I don't know how long I know nothing. I don't know how long their reign is.
Something like that.
Is it a 4-year? Right. What are those next 4 years going to look like for everybody?
Right.
You still have things to accomplish. You still have people to manage. Like, how is this just, again, if you have to say you're the boss, you're not the boss, then this is going to be terrible for everybody.
He kind of pats himself on the back. Oh, I got Cadillac into this. But it's like, no, dude. Cadillac was coming to the sport whether you had a hand in it or not. It was just in what shape was Cadillac coming to the sport. If it was Michael Andretti, it isn't coming into the sport. But if it's Cadillac, it was welcomed in. They spent months saying Cadillac didn't bring anything to the table. And then as soon as Andretti's gone, Cadillac's bringing a lot to the table. That was two different conversations out of Stefano's mouth. So you didn't. I think it's just dragged the whole presidency down, and anyway, we'll see what happens. But what to watch for? I'll be surprised if all the candidates take that line down. I'll be surprised if some didn't challenge that in court or in EU. We'll see. In other news, Mercedes George Russell deal taking a while apparently. Lots of 2026 lineup noise over in the Mercedes camp. Toto Wolff says, "Good things take a while." I've got a sound bite for that, Grace. There you go. Yeah,
There it is.
Couldn't find it quick enough.
Toto.
So he said it takes a while as Russell's new deal isn't signed yet. Official F1 coverage echoes Mercedes expects to confirm Russell and Antonelli for 2026 very soon. And, George's Singapore win, well, that fuels a lot of conversation about the leverage he may have on getting a new deal. So the timing looks kind of tactical in a way. I got to think salary, media, and marketing obligations and 2026 positioning are likely the sticking points, not a raw seat security thing. I don't think that's the issue at play here for Russell.
I agree.
Yeah. I think it's all around. Well, it's always about money. I think it's about money and some of the details.
All the other stuff that goes along with it, right? Like it's not just like,
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I agree. I think it's all the other little
I
stuff
think
that he's
I think
do.
it probably is, and probably the length of the contract, right? So maybe Toto's throwing a 2-year and he wants a 3-year or something. Who knows? Or Toto's throwing a 1 and he wants a 2 or 3. Who knows?
Well, if he's throwing a 1, that is
that's a
definitely going to
slap.
slow this down because there's no way George just wants a 1.
No.
No, my
Right.
friend.
And, fan speculation always starts to really spike, and the conversations always really start to simmer and heat up whenever an announcement like this drags on. Then there's a lot of speculation that breeds into it, a lot of conspiracy that breeds into it, especially after big results. And there's several other silly season discussions going on now in the background. So a lot of people say, well, they haven't signed George yet because, now they're talking Leclerc to McLaren, or even swap with Oscar, or they're talking McLaren, Leclerc going to Mercedes, and these.
Leclerc's going to
I know,
everywhere
yeah.
apparently this week.
You read social media or even some of the press, they've got him going everywhere. And then you got, Max isn't totally, he stayed this year, but he could leave, and blah 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 blah. And so there's all these behind doors discussions going on. I think Merck's 2026 driver clarity really kind of intersects with the presumed notion that their power unit could be the one to beat in 2026. And their chassis reset and redesign to get on top of what ailed them this year. I think maybe there's a bigger narrative there. If Russell extracts sort of a stronger status now, it shapes the car development focus, the pecking order with Antonelli. It kind of shapes that team going forward. And I think maybe that, going back, Grace, to my conversation about it's more than just the money. There's probably some consideration around, okay, he wants a lot of money. He wants a 2 or 3 year deal. He wants the pecking order. He's leading the team. We're going to develop this car around our team leader, those kind of things. Kimi's still, getting his sea legs as a rookie. He's only 19. But here's the challenge. After another year, Max is available. Do we want to go all in on this? Are we sure that George is our future champion on a 3-year deal when Max could be available in 1 or 2, or anyone else? Or, these are all conversations, and this isn't anything new. If you've been around Formula One a long time, you know that team bosses have to deal with this all the time, and Toto certainly is no stranger to this kind of thought. But that's kind of one of the things that I think they got to be thinking about. So as we look at just pushing back and some pitfalls, I was thinking just the assumption check is really, a late signature doesn't mean necessarily discord among the team. It could be sequencing, announce both drivers at once, or simply salary and term length negotiations, and you can't discount that maybe George has offers maybe from other teams that he's leveraging against his deal with Merck. It's hard to know, right? So as much as people accuse me of being some huge George Russell fanatic, and I'm not, but I've defended him pretty fiercely because I think he's driving incredibly well this season and should have been in that car 2 years prior than when they put him in that car. And I feel like, I'm not being a grand apologist for George, but I think just because the signature announcement's taking so long doesn't necessarily mean that there's discord, although I insinuate that Toto really struggles praising him. And we've seen that, But maybe it's not all discard. I'm trying to give him benefit of the doubt. But if Antonelli is locked for 2026, then does that have any impact on Russell's internal leverage? And hear me out on this.
He has to be worried about Kimi, though, because they're not going to back off of that, right? Like, Kimi's their guy. They've said that. Like, I don't know how much. I mean, Toto Wolff is. I mean, in the Drive to Survive, like, it's his son. We get it. It's like, you know, Jean Todt and Felipe Massa, right? Like, so he's not getting rid of Kimi. Right. So that really puts the pressure on George in a way that, and there's no reason why Kimi would leave Mercedes, right? So, I think that really does turn the screw with George, right?
Yeah, that's exactly a part of it, Grace. That's what I was thinking. If Antonelli is locked in for 2026, does Russell's internal leverage actually decline post-announcement? Could Kimi's contract dilute George's position if people like Leclerc and Max and others are sniffing around, right?
And of course they are.
You got to think
you know what I mean? Like, that's just how
right?
Oh, I heard that Mercedes has the best cappuccino. Right. Yes,
so if you and I ran Mercedes and George wants a 2 or 3 year deal, and I know I have Kimi and I can sign him, does a 2 or 3 year super expensive contract make sense on George, knowing that there's a very good chance I might get Max or Charles Leclerc or somebody, or Oscar or somebody like that in a year or so? And it may be that Toto's saying, that's the contract, take it or leave it. Because if I got Kimi, I know I'm going to get one of the other top drivers. So do I want to go all in on George? You know, I don't know. I kind of feel like, to your point though, Grace, if they lock Kimi in, I think it does dilute George's leverage a little.
Oh yeah. Because he's basically the new Ocon, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, we've given you 1 year. You don't want 1 year? All right, have fun at Haas.
Yeah. Right.
They'll always, I mean, because they could even bring in, I'm sure they have juniors, you know, right? Like that, I just don't know who they are, that they, you know, because you're always planning for who's going to take that seat next, right? So there's people behind Kimi that would come in.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
they don't need George as much as George needs them.
I was reading some commentary in a thread about this, and, you know, people were, you know, saying, you know, about George and, you know, Singapore, and I guess, to paraphrase, I'm not quoting anyone, but to paraphrase it, you know, they were suggesting that maybe people are over-indexing one win in Singapore in a car track outlier scenario, you know. But I don't think that's fair at all. I think George has had an incredibly good season. You know, Singapore just added a layer of you know, or a layer to a brilliant season that he's having. And I feel like that they think it's adding a layer of overrating George. I don't know. I don't think so. You know, he's had less unforced errors than Charles Leclerc. You know,
I mean, I think if you're Mercedes, you don't want to get rid of George, right? Like, that's not the point, right? If you'd be very happy to keep George and Kimi for some amount of time, right? For another, you know, 3 years or something, right? But I think that you have to decide where you're going to hedge your bets, right? Like, because what happened? You don't know what's going to happen, right? It's all guesses, and maybe you've had some conversations with somebody like Max or, you know, Leclerc or something like that, and they've said, hey, my contract's up in a year and then I'm going to come to you. But I think that, who knows? That's so far away,
anything
right?
Can happen.
Like, so,
like Oscar to Alpine, right? Anything can happen.
And I'm for sure George is, again, going back to narrative management, George is always the the nice guy, right? Like, that's always kind of like, oh, George, right? He's so proper. He's so nice. He's a sponsor's dream. He doesn't have the dog in him, right? Like, that's always, George is never that guy. They never see George as oh, he's a fighter. Those are never what they talk about George being. And so that has to bother him, and he has to be like, no, I am cutthroat. Yeah. No, I can, you know, take out somebody. No, I can win races because I'm a good driver, right? Like, so he has to be pushing that as well. And if Mercedes isn't going to support him and make him just be like Kimi's number 2, well, then he may not be able to stay. It just may not be worth his future narrative.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see when they do announce anything. Whether they tie the driver announcement to their big 2026 technical roadmap briefing and come out with a whole PR efficiency sort of thing, a unified Merc marketing package, where we're happy to announce, 2026 engine looks great. Chaz is going to be great. We've re-signed, Kimi, we re-signed George as a driver on the back of one of his, best seasons in racing and blah, 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 and this would be great. Or if they start trickling out the announcement individually, I think it'll be interesting.
I think you're right. And I think that George has to be aware of what, again, I think what that narrative drives so much, right? And what other teams are going to believe about him, because that's always the hard part about Formula One is that there aren't that many other seats.
Yeah.
So even if George, I think it's the Ricciardo story.
Right.
Like, you can be done with Red Bull, but then you're going to Renault.
Yeah, right.
Right? Like, so you can be done with this. You can be like, I've had enough of Mercedes and I'm going to, I guess I'm staying in Mercedes.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
right.
You know what I mean? That's always the problem, is that there are so many other teams that have to have spaces for you to be at teams that you want to go to. You may just have to swallow this, like, your pals with Kimi, and that's your job now, right? Is to like be a nursemaid.
We're gonna be buddies, we're gonna be pals.
But what is your other option if you want to be in Formula One or the top team? That may be it.
Could be.
So you might just have to live with that.
Deal. Well, let's see. Oh, wait, this is interesting news. So it's all about the U.S. TV rights for Formula One. Now, you guys have probably seen the articles. Credible reporting says that Apple is in the lead. And there's even rumors that it may be announced in Austin.
Oh, imagine that,
I think that's a good time. Las Vegas might be better for all the glam and glitz, but whatever. You could get Tim down there in Las Vegas. Hey, have you tried an Apple Watch? It's cool. How about that new iPhone 17? You could, if you could read in multiple reports, says that Apple may be bidding $150 to $200 million a year, and is the likely winner, it says, for 2026 and onward. And Motorsport even floats the idea that it could be an Austin announcement, but there's, but there may not be. Who knows? So Apple's reported offer, as you can imagine, folks, dwarfs what ESPN's current fee is, right? And remember the first year, I think they just, let ESPN cover in like $20, but now it's $200 million. That's quite a return on investment. So it dwarfs ESPN's current fee, and it kind of fits into Apple's whole sports portfolio. Their portfolio play they're trying to grow in sports, right? So, but the other interesting thing is I read that F1 TV is expected to continue in the U.S. regardless, which I thought, wait a minute, that's interesting. Okay, fair enough. And then you have Apple's F1 movie. The success of that kind of strengthens their place.
So, I was going back to the F1 TV continuing in the U.S. I mean, right, that's how it currently is. Why would that? I don't know why that would change because Apple has it. Because you think Apple would just say, that's it, we're the only content carrier in the United States?
I feel like, I don't know. I guess maybe it's a lot of that. I'm under the impression that F1 TV streaming hasn't been the rude success that they had hoped it would be. But I haven't seen recent viewer. I could be way off on that, folks. So don't write that on a rock. But I was thinking, well, if Apple picks it up, a couple of things. If Apple pick up the broadcast, would they just stream Sky's coverage, like ESPN does?
Like ESPN's doing, right?
Or
would they do their own coverage?
Would they go out and get a bunch of 20 or somethings that would come out and be influencers and
Jensen Button lives in California. They could get some people.
Well, they could. They should. You can have influencers, TikTok influencers with iPads, talking about how exciting it is and all that.
They might actually get some actual crew, right? Like they could,
They could. If they do, that would be my recommendation. Because the other thing, it's like when ESPN tried to use some of their local on-air talent at the Miami Grand Prix. That was,
Yeah.
that was bad.
It's different. I think it would be very hard to pull. So like, right, you look at somebody, somebody from ESPN, right? You do more than one sport, right? Like you kind of can be a generalist, right, across sports. But auto racing is so different than stick and ball sports. I don't think you can just put a sports personality who is a generalist onto auto racing, right? Because I think it's such a different beast than basketball, baseball, football, something like that.
Right.
I don't think you can just find somebody who does coverage somewhere else and just put them on there. So I think that's where they would be mistaken.
Yeah.
And you really need somebody who is dedicated in some form of motorsports. Even if it was NASCAR, that's still going to be somebody, or somebody coming out of endurance racing. There are plenty of people who know how to do announcing and broadcasting and talk about auto racing. You need to get that talent. It can't just be somebody from stick and ball sports that you just carry over to your sport.
Agree.
Auto sports coverage.
Totally agree.
It's just too different. It'd be like cricket. Like, I mean, you can't just. Cricket is a different beast. You can't just put stick and ball people onto cricket because we don't understand cricket here in the United States.
Totally
so,
agree.
that would take somebody different to bring this audience to cricket.
Yep.
So
totally agree. And it's what ESPN, they had Nicole Briscoe and everything, and that they just it was horrible. And then it's like it
would be really
you
hard.
can't even go into F1 and just bring in some NASCAR broadcasters because that doesn't work either. I mean, look, Lee Diffie is a professional motorsport announcer, has been for decades, and he took a lot of blowback just going to NASCAR, right? So it's difficult, and you certainly can't get generalists broadcasting about it, as you said. That just does not work at all. Because your viewers know a lot more about the sport than they do, so they're bringing absolutely zero. And so, it's a difficult thing. It'll be interesting to see. I think the streaming first deal, it certainly raises reach and revenue. Questions about U.S. growth, right? So if it's streaming first, then what about that growth, and is that a way to do that? On the flip side, those pricey rights could push more shoulder content and cross-product tie-ins, I guess. And what I mean, shoulder content would be like Drive to Survive and feature stories about drivers or teams or whatever. It's custom programming around the sport that you would also show, right? Like Sky Sports F1 channel has lots of shoulder content that they develop for that. So, that would certainly you would think would ramp up. Is the Apple deal done? No, not to my knowledge. But it's not done until it's announced, right? And contracts and negotiations can take weird turns. But I will say that ESPN's reach has helped U.S. fandom for sure.
I mean, it just being on one channel.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, this was a couple years ago. I was complaining about I can't find the MotoGP races, and finally somebody was like, "Grace, why don't you just buy the MotoGP channel?"
Yeah.
Right, solve that problem, and now it's carried by somebody who HBO carries it all the time, right? Somebody carries it, but it's really hard. It was really annoying. And you're like, back in the day, let me break out my TV guide and figure out where MotoGP is this weekend, right?
It's on beIN Sports. What is that?
Right.
Now it's
and then you're like, do
Bally?
I have that channel?
Yeah,
what is going on, right? All I want to do is watch my race. So I think just having it in one place, and you can just buy ESPN streaming if you want, and then you can just go to their autosport content, right? I think just having one place to look for an unusual sport or not like a sport that's very big in your viewing market is very helpful.
It is. And it certainly helped, like I said, it certainly helped grow ESPN. A shift may slow that casual growth, even in the ARPU, or the average revenue per user. Even if that climbs, it could still slow that casual growth. where the accessibility to ESPN is based on, to your point, even if it's streaming on ESPN, but they bought that for maybe baseball, or they bought that for
Right.
Premier League soccer, or whatever else they show on ESPN.
Yeah.
So they bought it for that, but F1's on there too, right? So that casual growth could slow, and I'm interested to see how that would work. And one article was asking if we're projecting the MLS, MLB, Apple model that they have to cover those sports, if we're projecting that onto F1 without considering F1 TV's coexistence, and what would F1 TV and Apple's broadcast rights do in the same world, right?
I mean, I think it would, because there are going to be some amount of, I'm trying to think, like, is this just like I'm old and this is my old logic before everything became streaming? But right, like, to me, I don't see where the competition is, because I watch F1 TV, right? Because Sky Sports really annoys me at sometimes, and I really don't need the narrative. And David Coulthard tells really funny stories. So I mean, like, that's fine. I don't need the like in-depth knowledge during the race, right? It's fine. And I don't see how that's competing with Sky even on ESPN, right? Like, because there are some people that won't buy F1 TV. However, everything is now a subscription. Who owns who owns cable TV anymore? So if everything is now something you pay for, maybe it is more of a competition. I was just thinking more of like, if you have your cable TV and you buy these couple packages on the side, like MotoGP or Formula One, so that you get all that shoulder content that comes with F1 TV, because that's really what I value. You get a lot of the old races.
Right.
You get a lot more technical content. There's a lot of content that you get with F1 TV besides just the race broadcast. I don't know. Feel like if you now have to buy two things, then maybe it is competition.
If Apple just,
in a way, it used to not
if Apple picks it up and broadcasts Sky, then I don't think F1 TV is in trouble.
Right.
But if they come out with tons of F1 content, and then all of a sudden they think it starts to compete.
I mean, but how does that work in the UK? Right? Don't both exist there?
Yeah, but they have Sky Sports F1 channel. It's a dedicated channel with all kinds of content. I don't know. I'd love to see what the streaming
right?
and subscribers are in the UK for F1 TV versus US. I don't know. Yeah.
Right. Right. Especially, and I think it would be more especially if Apple creates more better content.
Yeah.
Right? Whatever better is, however you define that. The F1 TV may be very nervous.
Yeah,
right?
They could. Who knows? But for $150 to $200 million a year, I think F1 would be fine with that.
Yeah. I mean, right. It's all dollars to that. I'm sure buy both services. Go
and
for it.
A lot of that prize money comes from broadcast rights. So, yep.
Oh, like 90% of it, right? So sure, we'll have as many streaming channels as you want in the United States.
So yeah, it'd be interesting. Kind of feel like if Apple did do that and they like bundled like some clever like free windows, like just the sprint races they show for free or something to close the gap,
Or like MotoGP's done now that it's like after so many hours it's free.
Yeah, right.
Because how else are you going to get people to watch your sport? If you want people in the United States or any market, right? If you want people to watch your sport, you have to make it free. And then they'll want to watch it even if it's delayed. So that's how you make some profit off of that. But yeah, what am I supposed to tell my friend? Yeah, watch this great MotoGP race you can't watch because it was on some obscure channel and I don't know.
Right.
Sorry, it was really great. Watch some clips on YouTube.
Right. This next story I thought was kind of funny. I won't spend a lot of time on this, but Carlos Sainz calls out F1 broadcast for girlfriends and celebs focus. Carlos told Spanish radio that the world feed is overdoing reaction shots at the expense of on-track action. F1 defended the balanced race coverage with context shots. This followed the Singapore weekend with fans also, upset about it, missing passes on track while they're showing wags on TV, right? I understand what they're saying. The F1's case was that audience data supports the mix. Drive to Survive era broadens narrative beyond just the cars.
So
Okay.
Okay, first I love to see what this audience data is.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I would love to say, you know what? I really don't know what's going on for 4th and 5th or 8th and 9th, but I'll tell you what I would like to see. I would like to see Lando's girlfriend again.
I mean, so to me, this reminded me, I saw an interview with Liam Lawson when he was a reserve driver. He was like, you always knew when there was an accident or something on track because you could see the cameraman running down the pit lane and you're like, hold your face straight. Don't react, right? Because everybody wants the total wolf like slamming his headphones down. And so you're just like, don't react, don't react, don't react. And so now you have other people, whether they're Lando's parents or somebody's significant others, like everybody's just like, don't react, don't react. Because that's now it's like a cut to their shot and it's not even interesting. I don't know. I don't think it's that interesting. I mean, MotoGP does it, but you see like, you know, Mark Marquez's dad, who's a celebrity in his own right and has been going to every race for a long time. And like, they'll put the dad cam up and but he's doing something interesting, right? Like he's reacting to this moment. He's not just like, you know, right?
I need more shots of
I just
Yoss.
don't know why this is, yeah. That would be great.
Yeah.
That would be cinema. That would be absolute
I don't
cinema.
need to see Carlos
there's
pass
Yoss
somebody for 13th. I want to see more Yoss.
Yeah, I think there's really something, you know, to this. It's not just like, oh, let's show some people, let's show celebrities, let's show there's going to be others. It's just like, because then they always have a look on their face of like, oh, because they just saw that they're on camera and they're just like, oh.
I know.
Like, please just go away, right? Like, I don't know why.
But I feel like they did away with grid
scene.
girls, and now they're just substituting them with wags. They're constantly showing wags.
I'm just gonna put this out here. You know, like whoever the TV directors are, maybe, just maybe, people watch this for the racing.
It's a novel
and
idea.
Maybe, just maybe, men are able to watch it even if you don't show women.
I'm one. I don't need to see any of them.
Right? Like, I don't know.
I want to watch the cars.
That's why I'm saying, like, what is this audience data?
I don't know.
That is saying, well, they like the mix. Do they? Why?
I don't know.
And, you know, and especially, again, because if you just want to look at pretty people, there are plenty of channels for that, right? Like, you can go buy it's free on the internet, right? Like, I don't know why. If that's what you want to watch, why? This isn't like old broadcast television. I don't know why we would need this. Let's just watch the racing. It's fine. And
I'm fine with that.
And again, it's super cute that you're like, oh, look, there's Lando's mom. Hey, Lando's mom. That's kind of cute. Fine. But there's stuff happening on the track that we're missing.
Exactly.
I don't need to see anybody's significant others, you know, as much as they've been showing them.
You know, because look, you know, the whole U.S. celebrity infused product, you know, that would be something Apple, you could see them doubling down on. It's like, hey, you know, here's Fat Joe and here's Jay-Z and oh, this is great, isn't it? And you're like, I want to watch the racing, but you can see Apple doing that. But look, if F1's telling the truth here, that their cohort, their demographic is just clamoring for more, you know, people and whatever they called it. They had a term for it. Where was it? I'll find it, folks. Bear with me here. Drive Surviving broadens narratives behind the car. Context shots. F1 defended balancing race coverage with context shots. So if F1's telling the truth that their demographic, their biggest demographic right now, Formula One viewers, is much more interested in context shots, then maybe, here's an idea, then set up an experiment with a multi-feed presentation where one is telemetry heavy and all the racing, and the other one has all your other context shots, and then let the viewer choose, because I guarantee everybody will be watching the racing.
Again, the context shots aren't interesting. MotoGP is a little heavy on the significant others right now, too. I don't know why this has suddenly become a thing. But again, it's like, you know, it's the girlfriend's like, oh my God, right? Like, there is something I'm watching here that is, you're waiting for that reaction that they just don't do in Formula One because they know you're going to cut to them and they just look like, you know.
I know.
Rebecca Donaldson is a professional model. She's just like,
I know.
she knows what she's doing, right? She's not going to react. So I don't know why this is of interest, right?
I don't either.
Let's just watch Toto. Let's just go back to watching Toto and waiting for him to slam his headphones
I'd rather
down.
watch the team bosses and team personnel because you can get a feel for what they think is happening in the race, right?
Yes,
By their body
right?
language.
Like, I don't. But this seems to be back. It seems to be an arc back. Like we like went to just like watching the racing, and sometimes you'd have fan shots. But again, sometimes the fans you want to see, like especially in like Japan, right, where they have like whole things, and you're like, wow, look at that fan is really a fan, and look at the whole thing they got going
Crazy
on. Crazy
hats. And,
but sometimes, right, like they go all out, the Japanese fans, and I just think that there's something there to see, or like you see, oh, like look at all the, orange fans. Oh, look, I'm going to say the Lando fans. Look at all those Lando fans, right? That's interesting to watch just regular people watching this, but I don't know why you're zooming in on people who clearly are uninterested in being zoomed in on.
I agree. All right. Well, moving on. Shall we do some Alvin's Cats? Let's do some Alvin's Cats. We like to do that. We like to talk about things that orbit F1 that aren't necessarily F1. What do you got for us, Grace?
All right. So I wanted to start with a story. And the story is, so I read in Motorsport, right? Motorsport, they were talking about how with Liberty Media, purchasing MotoGP as the commercial rights holder, that they want to separate factory teams from independent teams. So in Formula One, we pretend like everybody's the same, and we pretend that that Ferrari and Haas have the same chance of winning a race, right? We just pretend they're all the same. And so what MotoGP does is they're like, no, that's not the case, right? You have the factory teams, and they're a different category from the independent teams, right? So Ducati is different, and they provide bikes to VR46, and they're an independent team, right? That they get their bikes from Ducati, but they're their own
different
team.
Than Gresini.
A separation, right? Correct, right? There's the separation between the factory teams and the independent teams. And I don't understand. So Liberty Media, if you're really thinking about this and there's somebody that listens to this podcast, why would you do this? Bring what MotoGP does into Formula One and stop pretending like we're all the same, because it's not true. I don't understand why you would want to get rid of that. There's just, again, we'll just have customer cars. We'll thank David Richards and we'll move forward. Why do we have to pretend like all of these 10 teams, soon to be 11 teams, are all the same? They're not. And I just don't see why this is an improvement to MotoGP to get rid of this distinction when it really is beneficial to those independent teams to be separate.
Yeah, true.
Because they are.
True.
Cool. It's cool. It's not a problem. Nobody has a problem with this. I don't know why. So I'm just saying, I don't know how serious you are about this, Liberty Media, but if this is just spaghetti you're throwing at the wall, let it fall to the ground. Let's never talk about it again unless you're going to move it into Formula One.
Agreed.
It's dumb. I just was like, I saw that and especially now because you're like, was that from a real source?
Right.
Like, oh, now I got so much
Who
more
said
research
that?
now.
Gunther?
Like, was that real? Right. Where did that come from? But I'm going to go with motorsports.com. It's pretty reputable.
Yeah,
so
it is.
But yeah, let's not do that. Let's just have customer cars already. Okay. So then, it's kind of hard when I'm not on the race weekends, just for the funny stuff. You and Paul do a much better job. Or Paul, who I'm now going to refer to as Not Todd, right? Like you and Not Todd do a great job. But the funny stuff I kind of miss out on because now it's removed from the race. But I think that we need to bring back some off-week awards, but solely based on radio messages, the sarcastic radio messages of Fernando Alonso. So I think we could have I cannot believe it, I cannot believe it, award, which would be a great award for things that I can totally believe happened in Formula One. We could have a trophy for hero of the race, which would be sarcastically awarded to the person who does something less than heroic on the track. Especially because it would most likely be Lance Stroll.
There's a good chance of that.
Right. Because I think my favorite trophy for hero of the race was when Lance Stroll was mad at Sebastian Vettel for pulling out in front of him in Monza, and then like 2 laps later he did the same thing. That was great. You are the trophy for hero of the race, Lance Stroll. So that would be fun. And then Alonso's, if you speak to me every lap, I will disconnect the radio.
That was great.
I mean, Alonso was really just on fire.
He was.
In not a good way. He was really upset that
he
whole
was a little
race.
chippy. Yeah, he was.
And I just think that it was great. And they could have just played all of his radio. He already has so many great radios. So but in that one race was just all there.
It was so good. I agree.
And then I think the other thing that comes up with team radios is that we have not mentioned, your boys over at Team Lift and Coast, but they had quite the race in Singapore as well. And poor Charles Leclerc, I think if he could have told them, if you tell me to lift and coast one more time, I'm parking this car, I'm going to get out and I'm going to punch you in the face. I really got a strong sense of that.
I know.
I mean, it's been an ongoing thing for them, but Lyco is not. It's not, and Lewis was not very happy about this either. And these last 6 races, I think, can't coast by fast enough for Ferrari.
Season couldn't end quick enough for them.
So, I mean, hopefully, maybe Vegas will be cool enough that they won't have braking issues, but they might have floor issues or engine issues, or who knows what other issues they might require them to lift and coast. But I was just like, we were watching football, and it was just like every time somebody said it was like lift and coast, lift and coast. Like this is now the new battle cry in my house.
Lift
so
and coast.
Good luck, Ferrari, because the Lyco life isn't really working out for you.
I love it. Love it. Great. All right. You ready for no shit headlines?
Always, it's my favorite.
I'm going to go through these. What time am I at? Okay, so I'll do this pretty quick. Here we go.
Sorry, I really got into the Apple TV story.
I know. I got all amped up about Apple.
You never know.
I know. All right. First one. Here we go. Christian Horner told perfect F1 job is available for him next year. There you go. What is that perfect job and who said it?
Changing the ice bath water
Ted
for
Kravitz.
Sergio Perez. No, I think you should have to change Sergio Perez's ice bath water after the races. That would be the perfect job.
No, Gunther Steiner said it, and he said that the perfect job for him is a pundit on TV. There you go.
No, that requires him to be personable. I've never gotten the sense that Christian Horner is particularly
I bet he is, but you got to get him out of his element. Yeah. Okay. That's my hunch.
If this happened, he has to be on Jensen Button.
Oh, that would be funny. He and JB would be great. I agree.
There we go.
Next one. F1 driver collapsed in the shower and was peeing red after a huge crash.
Well, that's not great.
Really? I read that. I was like, do I even want to click on that link? It was Esteban Ocon after a serious crash that he had. Oh, Esteban.
But not in F1.
No, I think it was F1, yeah. Was it Vegas or something?
I've never heard of. Oh, so not Singapore.
No.
Didn't I watch that race? Did
he wreck?
Was I staring at Rebecca Donaldson and I didn't see Ocon wreck? I don't know.
You were looking at too many wags. Yep. So that was a TMI. Let's see. Next up, Toto Wolff and Helmut Marko received prestigious award named after F1 legend. You think, wow, Toto and Helmut Marko? How did Helmut Marko get an award? That's amazing. It is named after an F1 legend? Yes, it was. Why? Because it was in Austria and it was named after Niki Lauda. That's why. So when
it's like, what do these two people have together?
When the pool is very small and it's in Austria and they hand out awards called the Nickies, there you go. Helmut Marko is...
Do they really call them the Nickies?
Yeah.
Aww.
Yeah. So you knew Helmut Marko because there's only 2 Austrians in the room there. So there you go.
Is it a picture of a shit box? Because
it should be of a red Parmalat hat is what it is, or a shit box. Yeah. Either one, really. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, and then finally, Christian Horner in stunning talks with Ferrari over Formula One comeback as axed Red Bull boss eyes immediate return to the grid after sacking 3 months ago. Well, number one, well played on the GEO and SEO there for domain authority. I appreciate that long-tailed headline there. That's really nice.
Yeah.
There you go. Now, a lot of people have asked me about this because they saw the same headlines. And Sunday had a person ask me about that. So what do you think about that? I thought he was looking for ownership. Yes, I think he is. And I think that's been conventional where he would like to come into Formula One. It's why you and I talked about going to Alpine made sense, because if Renault's bagging their Renault engine, what do they have left in there?
Yeah.
And they could just, turn over that team, and he could have ownership in that team and get him back to the top, right? So that made more sense. Going to Ferrari, is he going to have a piece of ownership in Ferraris? No. That I don't ever see that happening.
They're going to have a piece of him.
They'll have a piece of him.
ownership,
That's
not the other way around.
Ferrari, right? So that's not how it works.
You can't say that.
You can't say that. Oi, it's a shit box. I know. Now you got me going. I got to find it.
It's a shit box.
Yes. So Daniel Brill did so well with that. So anyway, but I could see this working, even though, and I would surmise that they might do some sort of thing, some sort of revenue share around the team, not ownership necessarily in Ferrari. I don't know that they would do that, but I could see them working a deal with him where he's got some serious upside. But I don't know. Would I welcome it as a Ferrari fan? Of course. I think he could turn it around. Yep.
Can I go back to the Nickies for a second?
Yeah.
If there are only 5 people in Austria related to Formula One, why would you give 2 of them the award at the same time?
I know.
You gotta spread this out.
I'll be honest. I was a little upset they didn't nominate me. I'm just saying.
Austrian Todd.
How many people do you have to choose from over there?
I don't know.
And
I don't know. I just think spread it out.
I could go to Austria and be there and, accept an award on behalf of the Parc Fermé just as easily as Helmut could for accept an award for his lifetime service to motorsport. I feel like podcasting since 2005, I've practically spent a lifetime serving motorsport.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It feels that way.
It does feel that way.
Where's our thanks?
None. Yes.
Way to go.
Well, that does it for this week. That's what we think. You can tell us what you think of all those riveting stories that we covered in this week.
Yeah.
You can do that by going to theparkforme.com. Share your opinion with decorum and civility. As always, a huge thank you to our Patreon supporters. We could not and would not do this podcast without you.
Absolutely.
Please share the podcast on all the socials and spread the word out there to help us. That would be a great help. If you like the podcast, give us a good rating on your favorite podcast player. That would be huge. And what would be also huge, since the patrons are lowering a little bit, it would be great if you ever considered supporting us. You could do that with Patreon. It would be awesome, and we'd be very grateful for your support because we love doing this show and love bringing it to you, and we love talking about Formula One, but we wouldn't do it without all of you out there to listen. So we're incredibly grateful for your support. And we come back next week with a young man, smallest one of the bunch, mind you, Paul Charsley, whose team,
not Todd,
not me, who happened to finish P2
That's right.
at Petit Le Mans in the Valkyrie, the season best performance, final race of the IMSA season. Awesome Valkyrie P2. And the GT was in P4. So great result. Kudos to Heart of Racing. Yeah. Kudos to Paul. Absolutely. Great season. Not the season they wanted to win the championship, of course, but what a great development year for the Valkyrie. Finished strong at P2. So that's great to Ian James, the whole team at Heart of Racing. They did a great job. So I will be back with Paul next week to talk about the U.S. Grand Prix in Austin, Texas, and we will review that race. And then, Grace, you'll be back. In between, do we have back-to-backs? No. Yes. No. No. Yes. Yes, we do.
Yes, because you have U.S. and Mexico.
Yes, they are. So Grace will be back in 2 weeks. So until that time when we come back and do it all over again, Grace, thank you so much for spending your evening with all of us. And we will see you next week. So long.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.